Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Checking, Coach Jay. Happy Monday.
Happy
Hope you had a
Monday.
good
Happy Monday.
weekend.
Happy Monday, everyone. My weekend was busy studying, but it was good. It was good. How was yours, Coach?
Good. Beautiful weather here in Chicago.
Nice.
Had some golf in, basketball tournament, so it was
Okay.
active and was good.
Nice. We're getting your audio is a little bit light, so I'm increasing you there.
Check.
But yeah, speaking of basketball, I got to play the 30 plus men's league that I play in. We started up again on Sunday. Coach Paul sounds light. I'm increasing it now, guys. Should
Okay.
be good. Uh,
How
but
about now?
the yeah, it should be good. The men's league started up again. So got to play some games yesterday. Left with more wins than losses, which is always good. Played a couple games. So I
Did
don't
you
know how
keep your
much longer.
stats so we can review it?
Uh, Mostly assists. I did hit a couple threes, but a lot of assists. I haven't
There you
shot a
go.
basketball in 4 or 5 months. So passing the ball doesn't leave. Passing the ball doesn't leave me. So setting up my shooters instead.
There you go. Someone that
Uh,
you'd like to play with.
right, exactly. I am an assist leader for sure. Uh, Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity and then see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. Uh, as far as news goes today, we didn't have too much as far as scheduled news goes. We know we have some Fed speakers, but Coach Paul and I were kind of looking through the headlines for this Fed speak. Didn't really see anything too specific. We know some of the larger headlines out right now, Coach, are geopolitical risk, potential escalations in the Middle East, and then of course the Hurricane Milton that we're seeing in Florida currently. So if anyone is in the path of that hurricane, please be safe. That's what matters first and foremost. Stay safe out there and do what you can. The markets are always going to be here, but take care of home first. Anything you got on that, Coach?
Yeah, I just saw a headline that it's Hurricane Milton is being upgraded to a Category 5. Um, with all the other damage, this is a complete disaster, and our we wish the best for anyone in that path. Please take care and get to safety. This is kind of stunning. The damage that's being done, and I think that had a little bit to do with the break in the equities also, and also, well, obviously, crude oil up another $3 today. Uh,
You should definitely be able to hear Paul a lot better now. I'm increasing his volume. If it
yeah, how
gets too
about now?
loud, yeah, you sound good to me. So there we go. We figured it out. Let's look at the markets. Going over the top percentage movers for the day, we have the Nikkei down 1.71%, soybean meal down 2%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 4.1%. To the upside, we have RBOB gasoline futures up 2.85%, heating oil up 3.61%, and crude oil, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, at 3.97%. Going over the major four
Yeah,
that we trade with Topstep accounts, we already spoke about crude oil up 3.97. We have the S&P is down 0.88%, NASDAQ down 1.04%, and gold, where are you? Gold down 0.22% to round out the big four.
yeah, well, let's start with the equities, Coach.
Let's start with
Seems
the equities. Here is the NASDAQ. I have a 30-minute chart up here, Coach. We have the your moving
opening last
averages,
night.
the 200 moving average, which is the white line here. This is a 30-minute chart. The 20 moving average is yellow. 50 is the purple moving average that you see here. and the market opened up last night above that 200 moving average. Uh, I did slow markets last night for Dakota, and we talked about the potential of this rally continuing, but also this being a higher time frame level of resistance in this 20,220 to 250 area, where that's pretty much where we sold off from on the original war headlines that we saw last week, Tuesday. Uh, so we see a
Recovered
rejection,
to almost the tick,
yeah,
didn't it?
to the tick. Yeah, if we kind of just frame out where that headline happened, we talked last week about filling this imbalance. We did fill it, went up, kind of tested it again in the overnight session last night, and rejected off of it for a pretty nice rejection. Back down towards the middle of it, back down towards this 20,000 area in the NASDAQ. If I frame out the first 30-minute Globex session opening range and attach a VWAP to that, we see that it left the range. It made us wait a little bit during slow markets. We were talking about this being a range bound market and trading it that way until it breaks. Uh, I want to point something out here, Coach, because I actually did take a long in the micro Nasdaq right at the end of slow markets, and I had a profit target on this trade of 20,250. And I took the trade right around here, right? So we had established this range. VWAP wasn't leaving the range. It was pretty much 50% of the range. And when we flush down towards the low of the range, I'm just going to trade it like a range bound market. The one thing that I didn't get to point out, and I realized pretty much right after I got off of the segment, was when we kind of sold under this VWAP here, there was decent volume in that selling. And that was the first decent volume we've seen for the entire session. So the way I'm looking at this is this changed what's going on in the market, right? A seller stepped up here and changed something. So I actually took the trade off when we started to hesitate around this VWAP, right? You guys have heard me say a bunch of times the market respects volume. And when that volume came in, that set the high for the rest of the day. So even if I wasn't going to take a short, I had to get it out of that long because if we weren't going to trade back up to the high of that volume and get that J trade, I had to get out of there. And we can see I'm very happy I got out and had to stop. But sometimes when we're tracking this VWAP, if volume comes in, right, this is volume in a 3-minute candle. This is about 1,000 contracts in 3 minutes. It's not going to immediately change the trajectory of that VWAP, but it changes the short time frame uh, market information that we're getting.
Yeah, and it was stale. I would say the initial action was stale last night. I believe it was opened higher from the settlement
Hmm.
when, and then just sat there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But nice out. Um, I myself was long on my swing trade and got up when the initial breakout. Um, and I said, but if it's going to be any good, it should recover this. It didn't. In retrospect, that was a great sell. But
Yeah,
hindsight is the wisdom of fools.
absolutely.
And but there is some wisdom in there. Okay, I didn't take the buy, but for a day, do I have a reason to sell it? Well, the high was made on the initial tick, um, which never recovered. VWAP trending down. When VWAP left the opening 3-minute range, it broke, and of course, this is another J trade. What did we go right back to? The bottom of the range. Um, that to me was a better sell than selling the first minute.
Out in the open.
Yeah, that and look at that, it just never recovered. Um,
No, it didn't. For the entire session, really. And this green line here is full session VWAP. We chopped around a lot during that New York session. If anyone was trading the first 4 hours of the New York session, you might be a little dizzy.
Or you could, if you're good
Yeah,
and you trade ranges, you could have a great day.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. I got dizzy. I locked my account out. I said, "Nope, I'm not gonna I'm not touching this." Um, but we chopped around that session VWAP, that full session VWAP for a while, and then ultimately when we started to use it as a resistance, we then get that sell off into Kashkari's comments. The one other thing that I want to point out is, let's see if it goes back there. Once we started to get a little bit of a sell off, where can we target? This is the, I'll change the color of this line. We'll make it orange. That is the monthly VWAP, right? So right now we kind of sold off right into that monthly VWAP, closed below it. Uh, Now it's looking like for the month sellers are in control. So I'm going to be watching this going into tomorrow, um, and the rest of the week.
well, another thing that we haven't talked about too is rising interest rates. The
Yes.
bonds were down another half a point today, a little more to 19.26, but the short end was down relatively more, but the 10-year down 10 and the 5-year down 6.5 to 7. That is rising short-term interest rates. That's weighs heavily on equities. It was just like a combination punches here. Um, First of all, crude oil prices ripping higher. We're almost at the not to be mentioned level um, in crude. Another hurricane that's just not good for GDP. It, and the thought of cutting the interest rates again is whatever that has changed, and the interest rates feel very very heavy. Um, so um, that combination just didn't help the bulls and it, any equities. It was I made one trade to get out, and I looked to buy it a couple times. It really couldn't settle above VWAP, at least on a half an hour. Um, I, some days when you don't trade, it's a good day. Um, so looking into tomorrow, I think we have a big day on the 20-day moving average in the S&P was the low of the day today. We had a little bounce off of that. Yes.
S&P charts, coach.
Oh, we'll stay at the NASDAQ. The
Re-
NASDAQ also, yes.
Really, the only thing I had on the Nasdaq was this anchored VWAP stayed in the range. And this is the 3 minute. We haven't seen one of these days in a very long time, right? Where we stayed this VWAP in this 3 minute opening range for about 5 hours. So, like Coach said, range bound market. If you are fading the extremes, this is where your opportunity was. Uh, and price outside of this sell off towards the end of the day didn't leave this range by more than 30 points in either direction. Uh, so a tight range, a range either way where it did present opportunities, it's still 100 points from one side to the other. But it took a lot of patience. And if you were getting chopped up on a day like today, just understand that the price action was suited for chopping anyone up that tried to trade in the middle of this range.
Yeah, and that gives leads into about risk management.
Mhm.
Um, the risk management is keeping your account. So on chop days, without stopping at a certain point, to me, it's 12 to 15%. Um, if you let it go down to 50%, it's really hard to recover. Um, so on if you got eaten alive today and waiting for breakouts, next time you go through it, uh, look and see if you could have stopped. My feeling is you could have, because that is the top of the hierarchy is to keep the account alive. Um, why I say that, days like today are some of my worst days.
Same here.
Um, just this time for sure. And then it rips back then you get long and short. And if you think about it, it's a death of a thousand cuts. Um, one, I don't think you can avoid. You're not going to avoid days like today. They're going to happen. What
Correct.
you can do is stop. What's the old saying is the best way to get out of a hole is to stop digging it. Um, so just some advice. Look at your um, account. I'll call it account management. And I mean, get to a point it's not working. To me, it's 12%. I have it set. It's just done. I'm just done.
The
And
12%
I'll
number.
hit it.
Time to
Yeah.
go away for the day, come back, refocus tomorrow maybe, or sometime later to come back to trade. But any more than that, you're right. It's too much. It's tough to come back from.
Yeah. It's tough to come back from. And I just, this is the most important. You're not going to avoid these type of days. So understand yourself. I know that I'm not good at this on days like today. Um, Never have, and probably never will. But
Right.
with that said, I know I need to stop. Um, I didn't have to deal with it today. Didn't I wanted to buy it? Uh, I was long coming in from a swing account, but on a day trade, I actually made no trades.
This
Um, to me, that I conquered my weakness today. It's something I look at. But if you're new and you're like in shell shock, like what the heck just happened? This is important that you understand that you need to keep the account alive. So you're managing the equity in your account. The market's going to do whatever it does, right? But and sometimes you can't get in tune with it. The only thing you can really control is know when to stop.
absolutely. Looking at the ES now, we have Coach Paul's moving averages up here, the 200 moving average. Again, we opened up above it with the 20 and the 50 above it as well. Uh, but somewhat range bound market if we zoom out. And again, we rejected near the highs of where we sold off during last week's escalation news. The ES did a better job of leaving this range early than the NASDAQ did. And it left a range and didn't really look back, right? We see the same thing here. Uh, Pretty much the same trade. Charts look very similar. The one thing I do want to point out on the ES, and shout out to Nick for a tick. If you heard him during Topstep TV today, talking about a selling iceberg at 57.85 during fast markets, there was a large seller that kept coming in at 57.85, and we can see it in the price action here, but from a volume perspective as well, this seller just kept throwing out sell orders on the offer and absorbing any buys that came in there. Uh, it I talked to Nick about this a little bit, and it made it a difficult trade because you still had to wait 5 hours before the market even decided to leave this range. But when it did, that seller was not playing games, Coach. Rest in peace
No,
to Dikembe Mutombo. But that that seller was not playing games up there. Rejecting any
no.
attempts to buy above 57.85, and eventually uh, making some money if they were shorting there if that was a sell to open, uh, selling off 50 points from that level.
Yeah, that was a great um, uh, um, recognition of that because that was a real powerful iceberg. I mean, it was like every time, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more. Um, I just couldn't on the upside, just couldn't get going. Interesting. My pivot was 52. Um,
752.
no, I'm sorry. What was the pivot? What price did they sell it? I don't have it right here, but it was
57.85 they were selling.
yeah, I'm sorry, the
57.85.
pivot was 82.
Okay.
So just kept on feeding. I was chomping at the bit to buy this. Um, but that volume, to me, that has the feeling of someone exiting a big trade. Um, there was no responsive rally. Um, the imbalance that created was the reason for that break. Um, in my opinion, that was just too much. It just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Um,
Any
and ex-
buyer, short time frame buyer that was buying into that, if you're a day trader and you're long at 57.84, you're gonna puke that position eventually. Um, when you don't get any kind of favorable price action, uh, like you said, that creates this sell momentum.
and look at that volume profile on the side.
Yeah.
there,
Yep.
there it is. That's the order. Now Nick Vertick is good at reading those icebergs, and there it is, right there. That this is the output from it. Now we don't know it while it's happening, but we have a clue, knowing that even if you bought it above VWAP, back under it, get out, and you can, what they were talking about, jab, jab, jab. Um, if you were selling it, there was a couple times you had to get out, but you got to take the big trade. But if you over leveraged your account and then you didn't have the patience and you did a 5 lot there,
It was more like a jab and get into a shell day. Throw your punch and protect yourself because if you were a buyer, there was a bigger one coming eventually. And of course, we don't know that. But like you said, coach, you can't over leverage because you're getting this smaller price action. Uh, it's the market is a range bound market, right? You have to trade it like that until it fails. Papa Giorgio makes a good comment here. He said that was a true house trade. What firm? Who knows? Most house trades have a stop over the highs for the day if they are setting a sell off in the markets. Yeah. So this was definitely,
yeah,
and guys, we'll say here, whoever that person was, whoever that guy. Of course, we understand
entity.
that it's not one. It could be, but it's not one human. It's an entity. It's likely a firm, whatever. A
Yeah.
market participant is selling a ton of contracts here, um, and just not allowing the market to continue over.
And I would say this, there's not a trader that big
Right.
to take on the S&Ps. Um,
Definitely not.
um, because if it was an individual, where's he going to exit if it goes up? But
All time
believe me,
highs, and
right?
continue to make all time highs. Right.
Um, so I mean, yeah, it's possible, but very low probability. So, with that said, is chipping away, jabbing, because without patience, you might not be around. You might have quit before the break, right? If you were selling it, there were some times where it was tough. But where it didn't, I don't think it got two average true ranges in the 3 minute over the hit that average price.
Two ATRs at this time of day was 4 points. Over this average was eight. Nope, never did.
Okay. Now, we want to talk about trade management versus account management. That's why I like that two ATRs. If you wanted to buy it, all right, and I risk two ATRs, you got hit, but you didn't take if you had proper sizing, you took a loss, a small loss. But if you sold it, had the two ATR risk, you had a chance to write it down. Now that's why putting if your stop was too close. And this is important because if you don't have a stop, you're not accepting the risk, and you're very vulnerable to emotional swing trading, and that's usually not doesn't result in positive performance. Um, boy, what a When you scrunch that in, we just took Friday's range right back.
No, we did. Yes, we did.
An important part is we hit the daily 20-day moving average. So I'm really interested in tomorrow's action. Um, if it, I'm still like above the 20, I'm going to favor being long. Um, I don't, like I'll say, this is what I look at. This isn't advice, but looking at the 20-day, knowing that it needs to hold that, or the funds will start to liquidate if they're long. Might not get short, and maybe an entity said, "I've had enough." The election's bearing down upon us. I don't know. It has a big chance of creating havoc. Um, I'm not making an opinion. I'm just it's volatility could explode. So with that, knowing that a big entity sold like that, I'm aware, but that doesn't affect what my process is. I'm willing to lose what I need to, what I, you know, lose to buy it. If I'm right, I should get a nice trade. If I'm wrong, okay, I was wrong. But it's sitting on this 20. If it gets any momentum, we could just go right back up to where we left Friday, um, which is kind of in line with the daily, the longer term since for the last month. We've been in sideways action. So that's all I have for
Correct.
the S&P.
So, let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it there. We can Oh, so there was a question actually from Rusty Golfer. Can you tell if it was a sell to close or to open? You can't, right? With when open interest comes out tomorrow, you may be able to, but it's not something I ever really pay attention to. If you're interested though, Hogue always mentions the open interest during the opening call. But in real time, there's no way to tell. But the way I like to think about it is there are sell orders, right? So what are the intentions behind the seller? If they were selling the open, they were selling because they think the market's going lower. If they were selling to close, they're selling because they think the market's going lower as well, right? Where if I'm in a long and I don't think the market's going any higher than this, then I want to get that position off as well. So for me, I think what's really important is to see not just where they're selling, but the reaction to that price, right? If we see them selling, and a lot of times, if it's a long coach, those are the type of sellers where if they have that much size, those are the type of days where we see a 2% down day, where it's
Yeah, if they can't, yeah,
they
great
can't
point, coach.
find a counterparty to that trade. If it's a sell to close, a lot of times we'll see it as maybe they didn't want to get out at these prices, they had to, and then price action is it happens quick.
That's called forced liquidation.
Correct.
That means it's now become the house's problem. Um, in other words, they didn't come up with a margin, which I don't, it can happen. Bear Stearns, if you never heard of that name, um, Lehman Brothers, but I'm not saying this is that. But that was a forced liquidation that had to find that had to move. This one, this is how VWAP started, by the way. It was a large order that needed to be filled through the day. Institutions or brokerage firms used volume weighted average price. They can't get it done in one price, so they parcel it out all day long. Beat the average price. In this case, that's they beat the average price for the day. Um, because when you think about it, the parceled here is a little more. It's like the frog in boiling water. Frog lovers, I, I apologize. But the story is it's a frog. If you don't know it, a frog, if you throw them in hot, boiling hot water, is gonna hop right out.
You get frog soup.
You get frog soup.
Ah,
No, I've had frog satay in Singapore. It's actually very good. Um,
Whoever you,
But
bro.
yeah, um, but if you throw it in there, it's going to hop right out. But if you put it in warm water and you turn up the heat, it probably won't escape.
Makes
That's what
sense.
this felt like. Here's a little more. Market took it. Here's a little more. And now it's overwhelming. Whoever was left with the imbalance had to look to get out. Um, and it wasn't a big volume day,
No, not at all.
right? So there's
Not at
all the
all.
volume they sold.
It was
So it took,
actually on a daily average, it was below the daily average for volume.
yeah, on a big order. So yeah, that makes sense on a volume perspective. And the fact that we went down to the 20-day moving average where we found some buying and some short, I mean, some buying, like bargain hunters, end of the month clearance sale, whatever it's called. We did find some decent buying down there.
And then I'll just go back to this real quick, and then we're going to go to crude oil from here because crude was actually moving really well today. Please take a look at the 2 p.m. sell-off in the NASDAQ. We'll be interested if that was detectable. So I believe that's when Kashkari started speaking. So we know anytime a Fed speaker comes out, there's potential for, market volatility. We see the markets this way. And prior to that, I don't know that there was a very clear way to say that, hey, this was going to sell off. But once that volume started to pick up a little bit, then I think it gave an opportunity to get into a trade, right? Where we are starting to break this range, volume is starting to increase a little bit. I look at 3-minute charts, so I may, look at this candle here, which was significant price action, that looks like it's taking us out of this range. I would probably use a little bit of discretion because this candle didn't really take us out of the range. So somewhere around these prices, but the same way the overnight sell, right? We see a big volume event and then that changed the market conditions. This here started to change those market conditions and maybe give you an opportunity to get into a short. Do you know that it's going to flush 200 points? No. Uh, but up then from there, it's up to you to manage that trade. But let's go to crude oil, coach. A lot affecting the crude oil markets right now, and London loves crude.
They set the tone, don't they?
Yeah, this has been 2 weeks now,
Yeah.
consistently.
I, yep. Well, I think so. Um,
2 weeks consistently, we have this 30-minute opening range here in crude, and this is the 30-minute starting the Globex open. So 5 p.m. Central Time when the market opens, this is the 30-minute range, and we can see until the London markets open, which are at 2 a.m. Central Time. This is pretty much quiet, right? Uh, no one in Asia looking like they're directionally biased on crude.
yep,
But then as soon as London comes in, there
it's
it
up.
goes off to the races.
Now, love that framing out. We didn't even, one of the things is it went through, if we look at that, is it went through, like you said, it was asleep. But after the rally we've had, the fact we couldn't find any sellers over the weekend because uh, no one wants to take a short position in crude at this time when there's hurricanes over the weekend. Oh, and we haven't even mentioned a war in the Middle East. So as time went, if you were imagine one of the in trading is to think of what the other side is, right? So I'm long. I've been long. Um, on a day trade though, what am I? I'm over the 200 bar moving average on half hour. By the way, the daily, if you don't want to bring it, was the low of the day of the 200 daily moving average, which it's held above for since When it came above Thursday, held Friday at the lows, held this morning at the lows. So that part is okay. If I'm looking to sell this, what's the market telling me? There's no one
Counter trend.
willing. I'm counter trend, and there's no one with me. Now, if it broke out of that opening range or gap lower, then I feel that the longs would be under pressure. But we just sat there, like you just said, nothing going on. I've been short in quiet markets like that with the hope that something that it's going to break, and then London opened up, and it wasn't they weren't even gentle about it. They just came in and said buy it. Now there is probably some weather report that came out. I know there was one that affected the grains overnight, but that looks like it came in and they didn't hesitate. So though those shorts couldn't hang around. But if even if there wasn't any shorts, the buyers needed to buy it. And off we went.
So really nice rally in crude. High of the day, 77.40. And where that 200 daily moving average coach was talking about was at 74.37 about, right? 74.50, we'll call it. We saw, buying pretty much all last week in crude as well, and just a continuation, really nice continuation of this move. If we're looking at, maybe you don't trade during the London session and you wait for the New York session. Crude oil opens up at 8 a.m. Central Time, so that's this range here. And same story where VWAP left that range very early. Uh, you know, 3 candles in, volume is trying to leave this range, price is leaving the range as well, and just a really nice rally. So, like you said, Coach, not really a market that shorts are getting much from currently. These pullbacks, we get a 60-point pullback, 60 tick pullback here, another 60 tick pullback there. But outside of that, I don't see much opportunity for shorts. So just be careful, right? Obviously, there can be money made on both sides, but if you are shorting this, you have to understand that you're counter trend right now, right? And can that trend change? Absolutely. But until it does, uh, I think it's important to frame your trades correctly because buyers are having a better time right now in crude.
Yeah, and then like you said, to me, I go with the trend. Um, but if you're just be aware that this market can turn on a dime. We've seen it time and again. Um, and the sellers look at the time that they're involved. It's a very short time.
It's buyers taking profits.
Yeah, probably most. Um, in my younger days on a trading floor, as floor traders, we would always fade the paper. On days like today, it was brutal because now this is all the locals, the other side of the trade, who are providing liquidity. They turn around and everybody looks at each other. Um, and then I naturally 90% of them are short, and the paper usually, there's no paper to take you out. So everybody looks at each other, and the first person that takes out any offer, everybody else lunges, and that's the kind of movement we had.
So crude getting very close to that level that shall not be mentioned, but I know we might have some new viewers. So what that level is, I'll mention it one time, and then from here on out, we're going to call it the level that shall not be mentioned, $80. $80 a barrel in crude for anyone who is a new viewer. And why we're talking about $80 a barrel is because if you look to the left, anytime crude oil comes up to this $80 level, at least this year, uh, it has been a level of contention, right? Either a rejection area or once we get above it, acts as a support. And right now we are $2 away from it, coach. Uh, 2.5. and could very well see that tomorrow, right? Where from where we closed 77.28, we are a 3% move away. And with the current conditions, that could very well happen in tomorrow's London session.
Yeah, and on a daily, it broke a trend line. That it's still above that trend line from the highs of last time we were at 80 in July. Um, so it's touched it 3 times there,
Getting better at
and
that.
there you are. Yeah, see, it only takes some effort, son. But that now this is old school. If we had a stochastic or even an RSI, I don't have one, but I'm pretty rest assured it's not overbought. Um, so if there's any kind of attack on Iran's oil facilities, don't
Yeah.
fuck around. Don't try and fade it.
Yeah.
It's
The time to say, "Oh, this market went up too fast. It's time to short." There's a
yeah.
question from JD. So, would you just buy it now and set a sell at 79.90? That would be considered specific trade advice. So we can't say that. And for me, I personally wouldn't do that because trade location, in my opinion, still matters, right? So now, is there a potential? I would need to assess, especially for a day trade. On a swing trade, maybe that's a target. Before a day trade, I have to understand that I need to frame this trade out for the current conditions of the day and account for any potential pullbacks in drawdown that I'm willing to take, and then go from there. What about you, coach? What would you say to that?
No. Um,
It's simple.
because
N-
I mean, just no.
Yep.
And why? Because that's not a plan. You have to execute your plan. Here's why, because I've done it. And it's, there's no plan for an exit. There's no risk management that I hear. It's like, I got to be in. Man, every time I do that, and I can't say every time, but I
You wind up
feel
having to get out.
bingo, bingo. Because anytime it starts turning against you, you're going to turn to hope. Well, that's a four-letter word in trading. It's just like there's no, and you might even get rewarded, but is that gambling or is that trading? So difference between gambling and trading is measuring risk. Now, if your account can account for that and you're willing to take that risk and you put in a stop, okay, that fits your plan. Yeah. Matter of fact, you have to make that trade, which is a good time to bring out times, risk can also, we all think about risk is losing. I've discovered that risk, sometimes if I don't put on a trade that's part of my plan, that's risk.
Absolutely.
That's risk, and I went through it Friday. And I got over it. And I haven't gotten over it, but I've created the profile of that was a loss. That was risk. I
Yeah.
took risk and had a loss
Great
by
point, coach.
not putting the trade on. Because go ahead.
What are the risks of doing that? Because it's not just immediately monetary, right? It's not a, hey, I could lose on this trade. I know for myself what those risks are, and it's the risk of making an emotional decision right after that. Um, where it's, hey, for me personally, it's like I should have taken that trade, I missed it, and now I'm trying to force something because I'm thinking about the trade that I should have been in. And that's it's risk management for your decision making, right? Am I making now risky decisions because I didn't make my planned trade, right? So when you see your setups, take them because I don't know about you guys, but I get angry when I don't, and it still happens
Yeah.
now. the immediate response is to get angry. I've learned how to live with that response and how to navigate that response, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, coach, I would even just say you should feel angry. Don't act out in anger. And
Correct.
that becomes part of the mindset of trading because I know especially when I was young. Yeah, I'm angry and I'm going to show you just how angry I am. I mean, what happens? it, it's not a positive result. So feeling that anger but not acting out in anger is a very important thing in not only in trading in life,
Sure.
because acting out in anger is harmful to you. Um, Understanding, yeah, I'm fucking angry. I had to go through, I was angry. I felt it, I didn't absolve myself, but you know what I did? I equalized it. I said, okay. It helped me today because in my anger, I would have tried to buy the S&P because it's got to go up.
Yeah. Something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but making that decision that we know we shouldn't because of whatever could be a trigger to doing that. You know, taking those decisions out of your trading could improve P&L so much, right?
Yeah,
Because those are never small losses when they happen. In my experience, maybe everyone else is different, but in my experience, those losses are whoa. It might take a little while to recover from that
yeah.
kind of loss.
That who did that?
Yeah, that wasn't me. That was the other
That
guy.
wasn't me. I saw an interview with Howard Mark. It's a famous fund manager.
Okay.
No, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was what was the guy from Duquesne Asset Management? Billionaire. And he was talking about but just good time, but he's talking about a $3 billion mistake. In the
Jesus.
2000s, at the top of the NASDAQ bubble in the early 2000s. And he goes, he knew it was, he called it the right shoulder was, the devil, the advocates. And he knew he shouldn't chase the market, but he did anyway. And he goes, it wasn't a mistake. It was just an emotional response. I was like, wow. This is, we talk about that's exactly what happens when we don't focus on our plan. And I mean, well, brave to say it. Um, I don't know if I'm at that level. Obviously, I hope to have that problem someday, but
$3
we
billion
all
dollar
go through
mistake,
it.
yeah. If I could
We
afford a
all
$3
go
billion dollar
through it.
mistake, I did something right in life. Stanley Druckenmiller is, I think who
Yes,
you're
Stanley
talking.
Druckenmiller.
We thank you to Chat. Chat always knows. Chat
Yeah.
always knows. Shout out to you, Chat. Um, all right, gold. Let's talk about gold.
Okay.
Didn't really
Wow.
do too much today. Kind of violent, kind of range bound. Presented some opportunities. Looked like it was going to sell off last night, but during slow markets, we did talk about the potential for this 2660 to be a bounce area, um, and range bound market, and it has been a range bound market for the last 2 weeks. We have seen gold do this for a month straight. Right, look at this here. This is 26 trading days before we break out, and gold looks like it's doing exactly that right now. We're at 11 days now in this consolidation. Um, Still not a market that I want to short for a long time, but maybe taking some more range bound scalp trades if we stay in this range is how I would approach gold for now.
Yeah, I agree. Turned. I'm not trading it.
Don't look at it.
I'm watching it. Um, on the daily, it still looks pretty healthy. Um, so I'm trying to be. I mean, it's getting. sh- It's part of it is the rallies are being sold now, or at least profit taking. The shorts, I don't know. Seems to me there's some profit taking there. Um,
Makes sense.
but you know, it's not bearish, so to speak, but um,
Giving more opportunity to shorts here than when it was just rallying to the upside.
boy, coach, there it is. Just what was that, July through July that we went through it? It
Oh
was
yeah, this
August,
is just chop, chop, chop.
and then an explosion. So, um, still on the bullish side. If you were trading gold and you're making money, good on you.
For
I
sure.
just don't see much of. And look at the ranges.
Daily ATR has been decreasing. Um, it's coiling for a move eventually. Today's
Yeah.
high to low range was I think 19 points. When the daily ATR is 30, 21 points. So very tight ranges. Maybe not presenting so much opportunity. But let's talk about what might be presenting opportunities, Coach. Anything on your scouting report for right now?
Um, nothing of urgency. Oh, the S&P and the NASDAQ are right around the 20-day moving average. Know what that is. I'll trade if we see kind of any significant movement underneath. Although it's sloping up, I'm favoring the buy side until otherwise. Um, so I like it, and we've been going sideways. Um, so I like right now. I like buying either one of them. And I answer a question. Someone NASDAQ 100. Coach Paul, did you work at the NYSE or the CME? I was at the Board of Trade for 25 years on the floor. So to answer that question, yes.
So that 20-day moving average Coach Paul was talking about in the S&Ps is at 5740, we'll call it, and in the Nasdaq is at 19,933. Where we can see both of those were pretty much lows of the session for the day. So
And
thank
and
you
look at
for
that,
that,
the way
Coach.
it's curling right into it.
Yep.
So it's almost if I think there's more probability that this is going to go up than down. Simple.
For me, scouting report, I think the equities are presenting decent enough opportunities to trade crude oil as well. So from there, I'm just going to see what pops up as far as a percentage mover goes on the day and see if that presents an opportunity to me. Um, Outside of that, I probably won't be trading much tomorrow anyway. So nothing else that I have. Uh, Thank you, Sandy. Coach, anything else that you want to say before we go? We got about 5 minutes. I'm going to check some notes real quick just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Coach, I think you're on mute. Or is it me?
Yeah, no, it's me.
You go. I can
Oh,
hear you now.
I sneezed. Um, just go back to all the fundamentals we talk about. The fundamental trade is to keep your account alive, manage your account, your trade equity. That leads to good risk management and focus on that. Don't try to pass overnight. Um, Coach Jay can attest to this. We've seen many traders. Some people get it, but it's a very small and the consistency. Even if you get it, to hold on to it because you know you got in too quick. You might have gotten lucky, or the market was your way that day. Doesn't bring consistency. Aim for consistency. As you build that consistency and you build equity, there's plenty of money.
100%. Yeah, that's a great point, Coach. A lot of especially when we did one-on-ones, we could see it a lot more. But a lot of oh, hey, I can pass this in 2 days. Those accounts don't last very long at all. Um, But if you have an account that you want to trade on Topstep, you want to trade with the team, you want to trade with one of us as coaches or with the other on-air talent on Topstep TV, fill out that link and get your chance to trade on Topstep TV. It's a great experience. I say it all the time. It's a great way to kind of build confidence in your trading strategy, or if you already have confidence in it, kind of prove to yourself and the trading community that you're a great trader. If you are trading on TopStep X, we can look through your performance stats while you're trading. Really good experience. And another link coming at you in the chat is for Pass with the Pros. If you're close to passing a combine and you want to pass on air, fill out that link. Also, VIPs. Been getting a lot of questions about, hey, coach, how do you join your VIP? Currently, my VIP team is closed, but we do have Coach Hoop, who is just going to be the latest VIP coach. So you may have heard during the daytime segment that they're going to be putting out a form 3 times a day. And the most submissions to that form will have the opportunity, the traders with the most submissions to those forms will have an opportunity to get on Coach Hoop's team. And I think we might have another VIP coach coming up soon.
Who would that be?
I don't know. I don't know if we're allowed to say it yet. So we're just going to keep that under wraps. But there might be another opportunity. Who knows? Uh, if you like what we're doing here, hit the like button. That's for Coach Paul and I. But if you like what TopStep is doing, fill out this Trustpilot link. Trustpilot is for you to review TopStep as a whole, the education we provide, the programming that we provide, from the trading combine to your XFAs and funded accounts. Fill out that Trustpilot link. I have nothing else. Let's look real quick at news for tomorrow. We got Canadian trade balance number, US trade balance number. I don't know if those are going to do too much because later in the week, I think the market may be waiting for jobless claims, the CPI print that we have on Thursday. We have FOMC minutes on Wednesday and PPI Friday. So a lot. It's heavy news week later in the week. So I would not be surprised at some consolidation. It's why I locked myself out after 2 hours of the New York session. I said, you know what? I would rather read a textbook than to trade this price action. But that's just for me. Uh, Anything else you got before we go, Coach? Or not? I'm gonna
Um,
sign us out.
that, that's it. Sign us out. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Remember, we have classes in Discord. Coach Ray, Coach Vince, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. Coach Hoop is actually going to be on today as well at 5 p.m. Hopefully I got that right. 4:30 Central Time for Coach Hoop and Coach Dakota at 7:30 Central on Slow Markets on YouTube. The other classes are going to be in Discord, and then of course we have Deanna with the London Open 3:30 a.m. Central Time. Ton of education for you to hopefully help you with your trading journey, make you better traders, and ultimately pull some money out of these markets. Everybody have a great rest of your night. Trade well, manage risk, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks.